Howdy, everyone. A little bit of a delay getting started at 11:15, but there's too much going on right now on the Osmo.com side. So, what we're going to do now is talk about a little NFL because this MLB slate is not entirely appealing. And we've got a ton to talk about with the NFL season breaking out today. So, Laffy, you ready to talk some NFL?
Oh man, you have no idea. You have no idea. I can't wait, man. This is I've been very much looking forward to this. You have one game tonight, which is this wild showdown format, but just in general, Sunday you had full week 1 NFL. It couldn't have come soon enough. Let's put it that way.
I'm doing a dirty bird over here. You'll see it on delay.
Yeah, see, you're an Eagles hater. I've found this out. Um,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, but yeah, you know what? They just keep getting disrespected. You win a Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. You win the divisional round, doesn't matter. You're still a dog. You win the championship round, doesn't matter. Still a dog. Win the Super Bowl, still a dog, doesn't matter. Um, Game's virtually a pick 'em now. Granted, I'm not a huge believer in Nick Foles. He does have some wild incentives, though. Have you seen this? If he plays 33% or more of the snaps tonight, he gets 250,000. If he plays 33% or more of the snaps and wins, he gets another 250,000, and that
Ooh.
happens for every game he plays this season.
Whew. I should
Pretty
get one of those
solid
clauses
bonus.
into my Osmo.com contract based on the percentage of time I'm on YouTube.
Exactly. Better than a Christmas bonus.
Honestly.
It's crazy, man. It's
I
crazy.
will say this. My hatred is deep in the core for me, for the Eagles. It is all I have ever known. Oddly enough, my father is a Cowboys fan, so I have hated the NFC East just naturally my entire life. I like the Eagles team, like as a team. I think they're really put together well. I like Carson Wentz. So I have no issues with their success. I don't consider it fluky. I think they're exceptional. I just wish that it didn't happen.
All right. All right. Well, that's fair enough. And the amazing thing is for you guys that are watching today, Josh is from Eastern Pennsylvania.
Yes.
He's a PA guy.
Yes.
This isn't a Dallas guy or a nation's capital guy. This isn't a New York guy. This is somebody that was born and raised in Eastern Pennsylvania around diehard 4-for-4 Philadelphia fans.
Yes.
Ugh.
While I was in, if I left my parents' house, I could have been in Philadelphia in under 90 minutes. When I was in college, I could have been in Philadelphia in under an hour. And I was in college when the Phillies won the World Series. It was probably the worst night of college in the 6 years that I attended college. You can call me Dr. Engelman if you'd like.
This is disappointing.
And
really
luckily,
is.
I lived in North Carolina. I've been in North Carolina for close to 10 years now, so I was able to avoid the pandemonium of the Super Bowl, which I'm surprised they didn't burn Eastern Pennsylvania to the ground.
All right, that's all right. Now you can go down south, get you get to have your fair weather fans of every sport. I'm sure there's some real ones out there, but it ain't like it is up here in the Northeast, man.
No, and that's what we were talking about before the show started. I believe that fandom and the average temperature of your city during those seasons, I think they're correlated highly.
Yeah. Anger and weather. There's definitely as weather goes down, anger goes up. I think that's fair to point out. Sure.
Yeah,
No
because
doubt.
if your team starts going down the tubes and you try to go to a game in like the second weekend of November in Philadelphia and they're sitting at 2-6,
Yeah.
that alcohol and that cold is going to fuel incredible levels of negativity. And that's how you end up throwing batteries at players and snowballs at Santa Claus.
Here we go. And the jail cell at the vet. I know. Dude, think about the dog pound. Think about the Cleveland fans.
Yeah. Oh, same story.
That have literally won a single game, one game over the last 2 seasons. They have lost 31 of 32 football games, and it's cold as shit in Cleveland.
Yep.
Like, this team at least the Eagles win some games each year. Like before last year, right? At least they would win some games. They'd be competitive.
Sure.
They'd give you like a 7-9, an 8-8, sometimes a 10-6.
I mean, you had
Same with the
McNabb forever. He was never
right.
bad. Like, that was
No,
Cleveland
of
to give
course.
anything for a McNabb career.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Cleveland could have had Wentz, Josh.
That's
But
true. That's true.
but I think I mean we're gonna get into strategy talk here, obviously.
Yeah.
Who do you I think Cleveland will be. I said this on the Sirius XM show back in like May that I think the Cleveland Browns can win 7 to 8 games this year. They're in a bad conference, a pretty weak division. Outside, I mean, you look at the conference: the Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills, the Jets, the Bengals, the Browns. I'll throw them in there too. The Titans, the Texans, the Colts, the Oakland Raiders, like there's a lot of teams that are not very good in this conference or just mediocre. I think Cleveland could win 7-8 games this year, potentially even get in as a wild card team. Who's your surprise team this year?
I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I know now that the Mac trade went through, Bill Simmons has been hopping on the Bears bandwagon a bit. I'm not on the Giants. I don't necessarily trust Eli. I don't like that Simmons has made this call already, but I really do like the Bengals.
Really?
I think their offense can be good enough. I trust the continuity. As weird as that sounds, because I think Lewis should have been canned ages ago. But Cincinnati's a team that I have some interest in. Even if the Browns are better, they're still probably not good. I don't particularly think that Baltimore is all that good. So really, they just need to compete with Pittsburgh. And if Le'Veon Bell is going to sit out for 8 weeks or something, I think that kind of opens the door there.
Yeah, it could definitely be the case. You know what? I love Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
By the way, if we're just talking week 1, Joe Mixon against the Colts, AJ Green against this Colts secondary. I'm in love with AJ Green here. I've done a lot of seasonal drafts this year because you have to when you're doing the Sirius show. There's a lot of the listeners are seasonal,
Sure.
and I noticed that AJ Green just wasn't getting respected. Like nobody wanted to draft him over a Devontae Adams, which I understand, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if AJ Green outperformed Devontae Adams this year, or even Michael Thomas in an offense that is not nearly as run heavy as it used to be. Sean Payton finally has an opportunity to integrate a solid run game into the offense as he did last year.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened. Drew Brees did not throw as many passes because he didn't need to. But AJ Green had a down year last season because Dalton was terrible. The offensive line was terrible. They have since added 2 very solid linemen that are capable both pass block or in the passing game and in the run game. You look at AJ Green last year, he still had just under 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, and that was a down year for him. If that's a down year, yeah, I'll take my chances on AJ Green any day of the week. I guess the only question is there should be enough to go around, but if Eifert's healthy, you actually do have a decent amount of weapons on that football team for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I think that's a big key too. And he's rarely healthy. So
right.
It is hard to bank on that. But he's dynamic.
Yeah, and he's a huge red zone threat.
Gigantic. Obviously, AJ Green, an incredible red zone threat. I'm a fan of John Ross. I hope that he can be what they've wanted him to be. And at that point, you've got a decent 1-2 punch of Mixon and Bernard. AJ Green, Ross, if Tyler Boyd can do something, if Eifert is healthy. I get that we're giving a lot of ifs on the Bengals. I mean, that is my,
sure.
They shouldn't be good more often than not. But I think they have the pieces to piece that together and contend in the North if it breaks.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And William Frazier in our YouTube chat said, LA Chargers team of the year. Would not surprise me at all.
Nope.
That is another team for fantasy purposes as well. Philip Rivers is a high volume passer. You're gonna get big numbers from him. Even in bad games, you know that he's going to throw the ball upwards of 40 times. Even with Melvin Gordon, you're going to see dump off city there with no real capable tight end, right? There's no pressure release valve in Hunter Henry, especially in the red zone. Sure, you brought Antonio Gates back in,
Yeah.
but Antonio Gates can maybe play like 15, 20 snaps a game. They'll all be on third down, and they'll likely all be inside the 20. So with him and like Virgil Green and with I think Sean Buckner or something is the other guy's name, the other tight end in there. They don't have like capable tight ends, and that's going to make a big difference. Sean Culkin, but this offense with Gordon, unfortunately, no Hunter Henry. They'd be just nasty in that case.
Yeah.
But Gordon, Keenan Allen, I think is easily one of the best wide receivers, especially in between the 20s in the entire league. Mike Williams is a 6'4", 215-pound, big-bodied receiver that they haven't had in the red zone, outside of an Antonio Gates. This team has a lot of potential this year. Defensively, too. They're nasty on defense. I just think I could see the Chargers. I don't know if this is a hot take. Maybe you can tell me. I could see the Chargers running away with the AFC South this year, or the AFC West. But the problem is they are cursed. This team, how many injuries do they suffer every single year? I mean, they lost each of their first 4 games last year by like 1 point. I mean, you can't find worse luck than the LA Chargers, San Diego Chargers. I don't care what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Keenan Allen. Last year, played in 16 games. Previously to that, 1 game, 8 games, 14 games back in 2014.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to be on the field.
Yeah.
What happens if Philip Rivers gets a concussion? Do you think that Geno Smith is going to lead him to any glory?
I think Philip Rivers is enough of a nut job that he will just play through it and tell him he's fine. Like the guy played half a football game on a torn ACL. The interesting thing about Rivers is he doesn't miss games.
Nope.
Like, I'm not saying it can't happen, but Philip Rivers rarely misses games. I mean, I can't remember
16 games started since 2006, every single season.
There you have it. He does not miss games. It's incredible. Look, he's got to feed each of his 15 kids. So, I
wonder what him and like Cromartie talk about.
Yeah. Oh my God. Do you remember Cromartie on Hard Knocks, where he couldn't remember all the names of his kids?
Yeah, he's like the 7th one. Fantastic.
It's horrible. It was so bad. But no, I like the Chargers a lot this year, and I like them. This isn't just real life football. Like, try and tie everything into fantasy terms. I like this team a lot for fantasy purposes. And week 1, I don't know how many people are going to be on the Chargers for week 1, but I think Kansas City is going to have some holes in the defense this year, a lot more than they did last season, which should help their own offense, by the way, but should also, I think this game could actually, and again, I very much respect the Chargers offense, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this game turn into at least somewhat of a shootout. And if it doesn't, I think the Chargers run away with it because they really just have a highly impressive defense and a solid offense. So I like Keenan Allen here. I like Melvin Gordon here. I think Philip Rivers is a strong cash game play across the board.
Yeah.
Like this is a good spot for them. And they're right now, their team total, their implied total, these will definitely move as we get to Sunday. I think it's still one of the one of the highest on the slate.
Yeah, Chargers minus
Or
3.5 right now. The total is 48. That's one of the higher totals of the day. Bucks Saints is slightly higher. Texans Pats is slightly higher. They're
yep.
same as the Bengals and Colts. And very similar to the Rams and Raiders. But either way, they're in one of the projected, quote unquote shootout games.
And that's something to always consider when it comes to football. You use Vegas totals and Vegas odds differently depending on what position it is. I'll explain. Like at quarterback, you don't necessarily want to see that the quarterback's team is favored by 2 touchdowns, right?
Exactly.
That they're 10-point favorites. At running back, that's pretty appealing, right? Like if you're talking about the running back position, and we have Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's talk about the Saints minus 9.5 today or on Sunday.
Yeah, sure. Look, they're facing a Jameis Winston-less Bucks team. Not sure it would make a huge difference. Him and Fitzpatrick are both mistake-prone gunslingers. Don't get me wrong, I have some respect for Winston, but I think when Fitzpatrick's on, he's pretty good. When he's off, he's probably the worst in the league. And the Saints, in one brief season, bolstered the hell out of their secondary, and now have one of the best passing defenses in the league. So I think Alvin Kamara is one of these guys that, with no Mark Ingram, they did sign Mike Gillislee. They dropped, it was Jonathan Williams, and they still have Boston Scott. But Alvin Kamara, oh no, you know what? Scott did get waived. He got waived yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say that I thought I saw that, and then I just couldn't remember because I'm so deep into the baseball world right now that I can't even keep track of anything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, today with only 3 games gives us a little bit of a respite. I know. Tell me about it, man. That's why I was so happy to talk football. But yeah, Alvin Kamara, the Saints, 9.5-point favorites. In my eyes, that makes me that has me shy away from Breeze and just lock on to somebody like Alvin Kamara. Whereas at running or at wide receiver, I like to see something that's obviously similar to the quarterback, like maybe a 2, 3, 4-point spread. I don't care if the quarterback or the wide receiver is a dog either. Like as a running back, you don't want him to be a 6-point dog. But at wide receiver, if he's a 6-point dog, it doesn't really matter as long as he's not playing like Minnesota or Jacksonville, where where you can't get a passing attack going to save your life. Like for example, I think another good example would probably be like Hopkins.
Yeah.
Like DeAndre Hopkins is, what's the spread on this? They're 6-point dogs.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to have to air the ball out if you're down by a touchdown or 10 points, maybe more at halftime. The passing volume's undoubtedly going to be there for Hopkins. So you don't really love Lamar Miller in that spot as a 6-point dog, and they go away from the run game. But DeAndre Hopkins, we sure know in week 1, they're not going to hang it up, put him on the sideline after halftime. He's going to get a lot of work.
Absolutely. He has to. If Hopkins isn't heavily involved, the Patriots are probably up by 30.
Yeah, of course. Earl asked, what do we think of James Conner? This is an interesting one. I've had 5 text messages on this just this morning, Josh.
Yeah, I guess Lev Bell is sort of lighting the fantasy world on fire right now.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's out of control. Plus, you know what's funny? Even if he did sign, like say he signed and he was on the field on Sunday.
Yeah.
I know that it's not the wide receiver position. I know it's not quarterback or a tight end, but you're still not going to be even close to 100%. I don't care if you've been doing individual workouts. You remember last year when he came back, he was super inefficient and rusty in week 1. So like, I think even if he did return, I wouldn't be playing Bell in week 1. But yeah, it looks like we're not getting Lev Bell in week 1. I mean, do we have anything concrete that he will not be playing?
I haven't seen anything that said like this is a 100% no-go. Although my wife did
Okay.
take him with her first pick in her girls draft, so I think she's a
Oh,
little salty right now.
that's unfortunate. I
Yeah.
mean, think about how many people got just burned by picking Bell 1 or 2.
That could be
Oh.
worse. You could have took Adrian Peterson a couple years ago when he tattooed his kid. So at least Bell's
Yeah,
just
that's
sitting out
true.
for contract reasons. You knew better. This one didn't sneak up on you.
Yeah,
Nobody to blame but yourself on this one.
I guess you're right, but I think most people expected him to report at some point. But yeah, no, yeah, you're right. I mean,
Look, in a
it's not
season
like
long league, doesn't matter. What you want to know is, will I have Le'Veon Bell in week 15 and 16?
yeah, well, will you be in the playoffs?
I think he could patchwork that shit for a while. I just want to know that I can have my best guys
Right.
when I get to the playoffs.
I mean, honestly, this may sound like blasphemy to any Lev Bell or Steelers fan, but I think James Conner can produce perfectly fine numbers in this Pittsburgh backfield. And if you had, let's say you had James Conner as a handcuff, and I'm usually not big on handcuffs in seasonal leagues, but with a guy like Bell where you had those question marks, you want to do that. I think James Conner can be a perfectly fine backup. I think, let's say Bell held out the whole season and just didn't play. I think Conner is an easy 1,000-yard rusher this year and easily racks up 300 to 400 receiving yards because the way this offense is built, Josh, you have a very concentrated group of people that where the offense is funneled through. Before Juju, you had Antonio Brown, you had Martavis Bryant, you had Bell, and you even had some Heath Miller.
Yeah.
Now it was going to be Juju. Well, I'll start with Antonio Brown, Juju, and Le'Veon Bell. I don't think it's fair to count Vance McDonald in there. So they lean heavily on the run game, and then they spread the ball out to two guys that see like 30, like Brown's going to see 35% market share every game or higher. That's insane. So
Yeah.
I think Connor just basically falls into this work
Yeah.
if he starts.
Has to.
And
He just
volume
has
is
to.
more volume to me is just far better than efficiency for fantasy purposes. The only reason I say it is because it's more predictable, right?
Sure.
Like that's why we had such a tough time at the beginning of Alvin Kamara's run predicting, because you're like,
Because of
wait,
Ingram.
he can't put up 180 yards on 10 touches again, can he? And then he would. But if Connor's going to see 20 plus touches each week, well, we have the volume. Now all we have to hope for is the efficiency, but you need that volume first. And I think Connor's going to give it to us for sure.
You mentioned Bell last year being a little rusty when he started. Exact same game last year as it is this year. At Cleveland for week 1. 10 carries, 32 yards, 6 targets, 15 yards.
Yep. Yeah, man. Absolutely.
And this Browns defense is absolutely better than it was last year.
Oh, way better. No doubt. The difference is James Conner on DraftKings is 4,500.
Yeah.
Bell's 9,400.
Yeah. What do you think Connor's ownership will be on Sunday?
Assuming he definitely starts.
Yeah, let's say we know that Le'Veon Bell is not suiting up.
Yeah, I think it'll probably. So I've had trouble with this. I think it'll probably be around like 15%. But here's the reason I don't think it'll be dramatically high. Here's why.
Okay.
Carlos Hyde is $4,500.
Okay.
And he's not even one of the best 4K guys. I'm just going down the list. Royce Freeman is $4,500, and he outplayed Devontae Booker clearly in the preseason. He's the lead back in Denver. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yep.
Okay, let's keep going. Rex Burkhead is $4,200, right? And it looks he isn't listed on the week 1 injury report, which is good. Sonny Michel, we still don't know if he's going to play, but all of those guys are priced down there. And then you still have Peyton Barber, who I think will garner some ownership because he's the lead back, and Ronald Jones was complete, just utter dog shit in the preseason. You have James White at 4K. You have Jordan Wilkins at 3,700. in the event that Marlon Mack is also held out. So there are a lot of guys that are running backs that are cheap enough to deploy at and spread that ownership out. But I think Connor's probably the safest one because he's going to get the work if he starts.
Yeah, if we get the information that Bell is out, I assume he'll be the highest owned cheap running back on the slate.
Yeah.
It's just that it's too many good factors in his favor for me to think that it'll shake all that much. And I assume that the line on this game is already factoring in the chances that Le'Veon Bell plays, which are, in my opinion, basically zero.
Right. I'm with you 100%. And don't forget, people will talk about, well, Cleveland's defense is better. You're absolutely right. Cleveland's defense is definitely better, but let's go back to the odds thing we were discussing. The defense is going to be better, but this team still has not won a regular season football game in more than a calendar year, probably closer to 2 calendar years, right?
Yeah.
And the odds on this game right now, it's a 4-point spread.
Yep.
And Pittsburgh's on the road. I think Cleveland comes out at home with all of this hype. You got a totally revamped team. I think they come out and they play quality football. I think they cover. I'm not saying they win, but I feel pretty confident that Cleveland covers at +4. I do. So if that's the case, and that's my take on this game, I wouldn't. I mean, think about it, dude. 4 points for Pittsburgh against Cleveland. That's not a large spread at all.
Not in the least.
No, not at all. So I think even if Connor, once again, isn't highly efficient, you're going to get a lot of work from him. Like you have to, because you can't, like, no matter how good Bell is, no matter how good Juju Smith-Schuster is, they don't have a tight end that's going to be able to put up big numbers.
No.
And you have to be able to get the run game going. How are you not going to get some type of rushing game going in a game that's expected to be competitive? I mean, Connor has monster upside just because he could catch 6 passes in this game and get 20 carries for 80 yards, 6 catches, let's say 4 catches for 25 yards. And if he scores, I mean, you're in great shape. And
yeah, if he scores, you're doing backflips.
Oh yeah, he's one of the guys that it's going to be tough for me to fade him. Like I MME in NFL.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll play 150. I told you I don't generally do it for baseball. I'll play 10 or 20, but for football I do. Connor's going to be one guy where I have a tough time deciding where I want to land on him, if I want to come in below or way above the field, because I do expect him to see a lot of volume against Cleveland if he starts.
And so much of that will depend on a certain premium feature at Awesemo.com, which would be our ownership projections. If he is oddly low for some reason, I will have a lot of Connor. If not, I think there are a couple other options that you touched on in that salary range that would work as a nice pivot. But
yeah,
I mean, one thing to point out, and somebody in the chat mentioned it, I think, about the Browns' run D being good. Shark, 4th in DVOA last year from Football Outsiders against the run. Now, I would not expect them to be 4th again this year. I just naturally expect teams to regress and move around. But of all of the garbage that was happening in Cleveland for 16 weeks, run defense wasn't one of them. Now, you can sort of say that that's because, they could pay attention more to the run in that second half when they were getting their ass handed to them. But I think they're good. At least on the defensive side of the ball, they are much improved.
Yeah.
There are signs that say, like, maybe this isn't the best spot. All right, let's flip this question in. Let's say we do hear that Bell is playing. Do you have any interest whatsoever?
In Bell?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Honestly. Like, and I'll tell you why. He hasn't been, like, again, if he practicing on his own, whatever, but he hasn't been involved in a team practice since everything began. He's No, I just expect him to be rusty. I mean, last year, yeah, his first game, 10 for 32, as you pointed out, then 27 for 87.
Yeah.
No, that's not efficient at all, in case you're wondering. Like it took a while for Bell to get going. Granted, he faced some difficult run defenses like what Minnesota and the list goes on. He faced some tough teams for sure, but I just don't see the need. And the reason for that is Bell is 9,400
Yeah.
just using DraftKings pricing, right? So he's easily the most expensive player in the entire player pool. David Johnson's 88 in a game that's basically a pick 'em. Alvin Kamara's 85 in a game where they're 9.5 point favorites. Leonard Fournette is 7,100. Not a huge fan of Fournette, but I expect them to I expect them to just run the ball down the Giants' throat. We
Yeah.
know that Doug Marrone does not want the ball in Blake Bortles' hands. Christian McCaffrey, 64. How about Melvin Gordon, 68? Not the greatest matchup, but he's going to get 20 plus touches easy in this game. Yeah, unless something goes terribly awry. Dalvin Cook's a 6.5 point favorite, 6,200. I worry a bit about the split with Lat Murray. If they're, I don't think they'll ease him into it, but you get my point. Joe Mixon, 6,100 against the Colts. Like I'll give you another one too. Alex Collins against Buffalo.
Yeah.
If Alex Collins toted the rock 30 times in week 1, I would not be surprised. So,
no, Buffalo is god awful. The only way that happens, the only way that Collins won't tote the rock that much is because Peterman threw, I don't know, 2 taints for that, for those that don't know, touchdowns after an interception.
Yes, he did. Oh man, I call him Nathan 5-pick Peterman.
Yeah,
because what was it? It was 5 picks in his first game in like the first half, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
he's bad,
dude. They're bad. It's a bad football team. When your quarterback contest or competition was between AJ McCarron, Nathan Peterman, and Josh Allen, you know that it's going to be a rough year.
And they just got McCarron, and now he's gone.
Yeah,
fantastic front office.
Crazy, and I mean their defense is actually okay. I won't take anything away from them, but there's something very interesting happened with them too. I was talking on Sirius with Amal Shaw. He's on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, VSIN.
Okay.
And he said, this was 2 weeks ago, and he said that the Bills win total over under had dropped 2 full games. That's crazy.
Oh, they're so shitty.
That's crazy, man. And wait till LaShawn McCoy gets disciplined for this off the field nonsense.
Yeah,
right?
that won't help.
No, I mean, I'm no prosecutor, but I'm not sure he comes out of this one smelling like a rose.
No, not so much.
Yeah, look, it's a deep running back is deep. Going back to your point on Cleveland's defense, that they were the rushing defense was not bad last year.
Yeah.
Now, if you looked at like yards per game allowed, right? They all, like, for the first half of the season, it was brutal.
Yeah.
And then they pulled it back and they finished with like the 7th fewest yards. Now, DVOA is the metric that you like to use because it takes into consideration a whole lot more than just how many yards were given up. But if you think about the fact that this Cleveland team allowed the 7th fewest rushing yards.
And probably close to the most attempts, if I had to guess.
Exactly. Even though they were down like every single game. They allowed the 5th most rushing attempts. And they were down almost every single game. They allowed only 3.4 yards per carry. That was second best to only the Denver Broncos. So all of that is great. But again, we still saw so many running backs have good games against them because the game flow and the game script suited them better than it would in another matchup. And sometimes that's more important, getting the carries, than it is how good the matchup is, because if you're down by 30 points, it doesn't matter if the opposing team has a bad run defense. You're not going to get the opportunities to do it anyway.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the defensive summary stats for right now just to take a quick peek at it since we're talking about it. Team defense. I do want to see where they landed. Cleveland Browns defense, 1,566 rushing yards.
Yeah. They should also have a good pass rush.
467 attempts. So they faced the 5th most attempts, but their yards per attempt, 31st.
Second lowest. Yep.
Yeah.
3.3. And they're going to have a pretty good pass rush. Like they're going to have a defense that's pretty decent, right? So
yeah,
I think this team could be surprising. And yeah, I mean, just think about it. That means that could actually, I won't say it helps Connor, but it's not going to hurt him that much because I expect it to be a competitive game. Plus, Ben Roethlisberger early in the season, the past couple of years, has not been all that sterling. So, I mean, I'm not. It's kind of anecdotal heading into this year, but yeah, I think this game stays close, and Connor probably gets a lot of work if Lev Bell is out. The question though, Josh, is look at some of the other cheap backs. Like, who do we like? I won't count Collins or Drake or those guys in the 5K range, but you know, at 45 or below,
Royce Freeman. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
It's just, it has to start there.
Like Seattle's defense, if you still have the Legion of Boom in your head, like if that's what you envision when you think of the Seahawks defense, erase that immediately, because that's not who they are anymore.
Nope. They were 14th in DVOA last year. And if we want to just talk
DVOA or run
for rush defense.
Okay.
They were 19th in yards per attempt. These are just, they're pedestrian numbers.
Yeah.
And now you're getting the starting running back for the Broncos at 4,500.
Exactly. Yeah. And
I don't think they're a better defense than they were last year. And they weren't good last year.
No, they should be markedly worse. Think of how many players that they lost.
Yeah.
Think of how many players that, you know, just stopped being good.
Yeah.
Like
no more Sherman.
No more Bennett.
Nope.
No more Cliff Averill.
Yep.
There's more, and I can't even remember it. Like there's a lot. When Cliff Averill was in his prime, that guy was getting to the quarterback.
Yes,
right?
He was.
When Sherman was in his prime, and who knows, maybe he can still play with the Niners. Like he was a shut down corner.
Yeah. You just didn't throw it. They just did not. It was like a useless side of the field.
Exactly, like Revis Island in his prime. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. You know, Football Outsiders has something interesting. I haven't dug into it yet, but have you seen they have the 2018 DVOA projections for 2018?
Take a look.
It's on the homepage of Outsiders. If
I
you
got
go
it.
there, you can share. Perfect. So,
am I sharing my screen with you so you can, or do you have it in front of you?
I got it pulled up.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of interesting here. I'm trying to see if they had any. It looks like they don't have any position. Oh wait, let's see. Offense, defense. Yeah. I don't think they have like run defense, this or that.
Cleveland run defense, 7th.
Oh, where am I?
Seattle, 13th. That's not making me stop having Freeman.
Where are you seeing run defense?
Def rank.
Oh yeah, well that would just be total defense, right? Yeah, because the defense.
Dude,
DVOA...
I am stupid. I am so stupid. I was confident in what I was saying. I was like, yeah, man, clearly I can see the defense. Like, how are you not seeing it?
Great.
Yeah, but that was almost my response, was just like, this guy's. No, it's me. It's totally me.
Dude, well, how about this, though? How about this? That's 7th overall that they're projected for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about that. They're projected to have a top 7 defense this season.
So, and I think that you could read into that and see, okay, they had a really good rush defense last year. I don't think that they just flipped their defensive ranking on the head and they're going to be bad at the rush and great against the pass. They're obviously projecting to be, at the minimum, a top 10 run defense in Cleveland.
I would agree with that.
Seattle
I
was
think it's
not a great run defense last year. They're ranked 13th overall in defense this year. I don't see any scenario where they're suddenly just a really good run defense and their pass defense is going to break on them.
agreed.
They're just an average team.
And you know what else should help is the fact that maybe Cleveland's offense will keep the defense off the field for a little bit each game.
It has to do better than it ever did before.
Right. Like DeShone Kaiser's not the guy that you want at the helm when you're trying to catch a breather late in the second half. Like no one.
You could have stopped that sentence really early. Deshaun Kaiser is not the guy you want at the helm. Period.
At the helm. Yeah. Really, I mean, think about why they lost all those games late. They were just cooked. They were smoked defensively. I remember going into overtime. I think they went into OT against the Packers, and they just collapsed down the stretch at overtime because they had nothing left in the tank. But yeah, I think Royce Freeman could get overlooked because I think your average player is going to see Seattle as like a team that's pretty decent.
Especially week one.
Right, exactly. That's right. Before we have any data to back it up in 2018.
I just was talking about it more from like the amount of people that are just coming to DraftKings and FanDuel to play because they heard about DraftKings and FanDuel. Sure. Oh, yeah, I remember Seattle was good. 12th man.
They have that projected DVOA of 13, defensive DVOA of 13. Yeah.
They're an average team with a good quarterback.
I think they'll be worse than 13. I think their playoff odds of 40%. I think that's high. I do.
It feels a little high because I think the Rams are so far and away the best team in that division that what you're saying is we need to win a wild card. And that's a tricky proposition. I think the NFC North is loaded.
The NFC is good.
Yeah.
Really. Like you have I could go over the teams, but you have a lot of good teams. And even the teams that aren't great aren't really like roll over and die type teams. Detroit's not great, but they're not going to be terrible. They have a good offense. Even Chicago now. Chicago, if you think that with Khalil Mack on defense, that this team, first of all, their defense last year wasn't even bad to begin with. Like they did such a good job of taking number one receivers completely out of the game altogether. They had Mitch Trubisky throwing the football 6 times a game, though. What do you expect? Like it wasn't going to work. But I think this team could be good. And if if he is even remotely competent this season, they're going to be decent because you have Allen Robinson. Let's assume he's back to full health. You have Anthony Miller. You have Jordan Howard. You have Tariq Cohen. You have Trey Burton. Like they have a pretty stacked offense in terms of weapons. They just need someone to get them the ball.
Yeah, they are like, oh God, I really don't like Trubisky. I think he's so
I'm not
bad.
A fan either. I'm not a fan either.
But they're pot committed at this point. They need to hope that it hits.
Dude, they traded up. What did they take him second overall? They were trying to do like a Carson Wentz type,
What a mistake.
See if history could repeat itself. Go with Mitch Trubisky. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll be wrong. Maybe he'll be good. But I'm not sure I'm buying into that. I really don't know. But so Royce Freeman is another one down there. He's interesting. One that I've had some trouble trying to figure out if I'm interested is Peyton Barber, because if let's say Peyton Barber was the one and only man there that was going to get the work in the backfield, then I would say that I'm going to load up on him, especially at very low projected ownership. And the reason for that is simply if they fall behind early, Peyton Barber is still going to get the passing down work.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to try and claw their way back into it to score some points. And they're going to have a very tough time moving the ball downfield against that Saints secondary. So that's one aspect of the game that I actually think is being overlooked here. You have a really, really, really good Saints secondary that should scare anybody. And last year we saw that Winston got suspended because he was so frustrated. He came up and gave like a wet willy to first of all, he is one of the most immature dudes you'll ever see, to Marshawn Lattimore. Did you ever see him eat the W?
Yes.
That you ever get that feeling where you're embarrassed for someone else and you're like, stop it, don't do it. And watching TV. That's
Yeah.
how I felt.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
It's
But
no, it's the right stance to take.
yeah, Evans got suspended there too
Yep.
because he was so frustrated. Marshawn Lattimore in 2 games last year shut his ass down. Like there was nowhere to go.
Was he the
And
biggest bust of the year last year, Evans?
certainly one of them, right? He got to 1,000 yards, 1,001 yard, 5 touchdowns. He was a very high pick. Yeah, I think he was one of the biggest busts against the Saints last year. He had 1 reception for 13 yards and 5 for 55, and that was in week 17. This is going to be real. He's going to have a really tough time. They're going to have a really tough time pushing the ball downfield, which is why I think Peyton Barber could actually get a lot of work. The real question is, because I think Ronald Jones, with how bad he was in the preseason, I don't expect him to do much.
Yeah.
But what I'm worried about is just does Jaquiz Rodgers come in and get the passing down work? Because if that's the case, Barber is screwed. But if not, and Barber's out there on third downs, he's gonna rack up at least 10 fantasy points just on receptions and yards alone.
Yeah, if you're MMEing, you need shares of Barber at that price point. Now, if he somehow turns into like the chalk play of the low salary guys, I want to be pretty far away from it. But if he's, low single digits,
I think he will.
that's a great spot.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting here. Football Outsiders projecting the Saints D to be 9th this year. They were 8th last year, 5th against the pass, 23rd against the rush. Man, that do you see it holding? It kind of scares me a little bit.
Do I see their secondary being as good as it was, the pass defense?
Yeah.
Thursday? Yeah, I think I honestly think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe they have some form of setbacks, like or regression a little bit, but no, this was they were I believe they were legitimately good. I really do. Crawley, Lattimore, I think they got Patrick Robinson now too, don't they? Who came into Philly as a journeyman and left as a guy that actually had a decent amount of interest in free agency. And, Patrick Robinson's a pretty solid slot guy. Yeah, I think they'll probably be able to shut it down again, but I think they'll also make for a pretty good matchup for opposing running backs in games that are supposed to be or expected to be close. Because I'm not sold on this team having a good rushing defense. So that's
23rd
where it gets
last year.
23rd in DVOA.
Yep.
Yeah. Yards per attempt, they allowed the 5th most yards per attempt.
That's that. Yeah. When those two things are in lockstep, that's not great.
No, not at all. Not at all. Especially considering when you look at the attempts against them, they had like the 9th fewest attempts. But they gave up a lot of yards. So Barber, it really comes down to me of will he be used on passing downs? Because if he does, then I think Fitzpatrick is going to lean heavily on him, and that goes past week 1. They face the Steelers and then the Eagles and then the Bears. You think with Khalil Mack coming at you, they're not going to just dump it off time and time again? Like,
yep.
Yeah. So
that's what I would be doing if I were playing Madden and he was coming off the edge.
Yeah. Quick bubble screens.
Yeah.
What do you think? Or
shit, I might have to buy Madden today now. Damn it.
I know.
Right? I haven't played Madden in years.
I didn't buy the new one. I bought last year's. I didn't buy this year's.
I used to be outside a GameStop before the gates rise at the mall guy. Yeah. Skip work.
Dedication. Yeah. Really dedicated.
I was a bigger college football, like NCAA football guy.
Right.
And then that died. Thanks, Ed O'Bannon.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like I want to get back into the Madden thing. My problem is that I'm going to be playing FIFA nonstop in 3 weeks, so I don't know if it's worth the money for me.
Well, were you playing Madden like when they had when it was they had where you could play live or online. Like were you
Not really. So it
okay?
existed. It
So
was
now
not nearly
everyone
as
is
good as it
waiting.
was now.
Okay, so now so that's the same with me. And then I was like, oh, let me try this. I was good at Madden. It's like people that are good at seasonal football and think that they can come in and crush daily fantasy,
Yeah.
right? Like a similar boat.
I beat my buddies from home.
Exactly. I got my ass kicked so bad.
Yeah.
I go on live, and these guys are like doing it for a living, and I had no idea what I walked into, and I was like, okay, well, this isn't fun like it used to be.
That's why I can't play Fortnite.
Yeah, I haven't tried it. I just know I'd suck.
I just can't. If I watch a video and I see someone build a house build a structure that's nicer than my house while shooting people with a shotgun, I'm not going to be able to move that fast. I'm out. I just can't. That game's not for
Yep.
me any longer.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Um. So right now, by the way, Barber. I'm looking at right now. I think his ownership, Barber, is going to be around like 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
I really,
I would want to have that same sort of amount.
yeah, like there's a big difference in having Barber as your value guy on your seasonal teams because you got him late, and that transferring to DFS. Like same thing with Matt Breida facing the Bucks or the Vikings.
Yeah.
I definitely I think it's different, and I think Barber goes overlooked because they're 9.5 point dogs. Anyone that puts any bit of research into it will see that compared to the other guys in his price range, he's probably not optimal in cash, but definitely has some tournament appeal. So what I wanted to ask you, Josh, is what do you do with guys like Burkhead and James White? Never an easy question, never an easy decision to make. Because I think Burkhead's going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, let me
If
filter this
Michelle is
down and take a look so I have all their prices in front of me.
especially if Michelle is out.
I mean, I'm going to Burkhead more, barring any ridiculous gaps in ownership. But I mean, it's the Patriots are like the Spurs in the NBA.
They sure are.
Like, I mean, I don't. Would it surprise you if any one of those guys was the bell cow for them on Sunday? No.
Well, I'll be
It's
honest.
like, oh, Brandon Paul went for
What?
44 tonight. It's like, what?
I I think this one is a little bit. I'll never say easier to predict, right? Because whenever you say that about Belichick, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But look at this team right now. You have Jordan Edelman out. Julian Edelman out for 4 games. Jordan Edelman. I was looking at Jordan Matthews beneath him.
No mas.
Yeah. I mean, he's not even there anymore, but he's still on the player pool. That's what sucks too. They haven't eliminated. It takes you so long to like actually go over all the players.
Yeah, how many dead players are going to just be rostered
I know.
Sunday?
Crazy.
I don't mean literally dead, but there might be one in there.
Right. They have a literal pulse, just not a figurative pulse.
Right.
But you have no Julian Edelman, who is one of Brady's most trustworthy guys. You have no more Dion Lewis. They don't have. There aren't no more Brandon Cooks. So you kind of think about it, like you have Chris Hogan, who I think is definitely going to get a lot of work here. There are other guys that are probably other than that. You're talking about like I don't know what Philip Dorsett, and I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. So when I look at the run game, I think Sony Michel is going to be out. Belichick said yesterday that he's still a little bit behind. He missed all of the preseason, a lot of training camp. I think he'll be perfectly fine for week 2. And I love Sony Michel. I love him,
same,
man. Like,
same.
I just love his skill set. And I don't think the Pats would have wasted a first-round pick if they didn't intend on using him. I expect him to be Dion Lewis's replacement to a large extent. But Rex Burkhead is one of these guys that, unlike so many others, unlike Gillislee, unlike Stephen Ridley. Who was the guy that had that like 4 touchdown game? Oh God, who was it? You have to know who I'm talking about. And then he never saw another snap again. It was like 3 years ago. You at least know who I'm talking
I
about,
do.
right?
I mean, all these guys just start blending together on the Patriots.
Right. Someone in chat is going to tell us.
Yeah, was it in 15 or was it 16?
I think it was 15. Might have been, but no, it wasn't. It wasn't James.
Not
White.
James White.
No, because James White's still on. No, James White's still on the team. It was. It might have been another White though. God, that's gonna drive me nuts.
I'm gonna hop over to the Patriots that year and see.
Yeah, not James Casey. Someone will figure this out. I'm telling. Someone will James Black. Anyway, Burkhead, I think he's pretty safe. Jonas Gray, was it Jonas Gray? I think it was Jonas Gray.
I do remember the game because his ownership then the next week was like through the roof, and I don't even think he got a touch.
Yes, it was. I think it was Jonas Gray. It was Jonas Gray. Nice call, dude. Nice call. That's it, Jonas Gray. So I'm looking at his game log from 2015, right? Pulling it up right now.
I have it up on the screen for everybody as well. Might not have been 15,
wasn't it? Or might not have been Jonas Gray. Maybe it was 2014.
Check 14. Yeah,
there it is.
There it is. November 16th, 2014.
37 attempts, 201 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns. And then look what he did after that, Josh.
1 attempt the following week.
Oh, it's amazing.
No, he didn't even. It could have been a bye week in week 11, but it probably was. Yeah, 1 attempt, 2 attempts, 11 attempts, 6 attempts.
Oh, it's incredible, isn't it? And he was so popular in DFS leagues.
Even season long, like the people were lining up to pick him up on the waiver wire or dump their fab budget.
Amazing. Nice, Mr. X. Good call, man. I could not. I knew it. I said it might have been another white. I knew it was a color. I just didn't know what color it was.
Off white.
Off. Let me finish my thought on Burkhead though, because I think Burkhead is actually pretty safe here. Yes, he had a slight tear in his knee, but he's not even on the injury report, and he will catch some passes. Like he will. I think he'll probably still see 4 or 5 targets here. This game should be close enough. I expect it to be a pretty fast-paced contest. The total in this game is definitely favorable. What's it at? It's at 50.5 right now, Josh. Yeah. It's the highest total on the slate. Burkhead, I think, will get. Yeah, I want to say he'll get the goal line work. Here's my one concern. I still like Burkhead a lot. I think he's probably one of the safest guys in this price range, and I think James White is fine too. But you're relying on him in the passing game. I want to know how much work is Jeremy Hill going to get? Like, will Jeremy Hill be the vulture? Will he be the guy that ruins our week because he pulls a Mike Gillislee from week 1 of last season and scores 3 goal line touchdowns?
Is he LeGarrette Blount, basically?
Right. I mean, LeGarrette Blount scored, 24 touchdowns or so, total touchdown, 22, right, like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
But Jeremy
might have had more touchdowns than yards.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not a true statement, people. Don't take that one too seriously.
Yeah, they're like, nuh-uh.
I almost said Corey Dillon. Now that chat's getting there, but I knew we were going way too far back.
Yeah. Jonas Gray. Yeah.
I mean, look, it's even... We're going to get information out of week 1 that barely carries over to week 2 for the Patriots backfield.
Oh, yeah.
That's the worst part of it all. Like, I have no confidence here. I don't even know. Like, it depends what you're trying to do. If you're playing regular tournaments, you're MMEing a reasonable entry or a reasonable entrant cap tournament, I'm probably not going to get too wild about Patriots running backs. If I'm playing the Millie, I want to have probably 1 share of all of these guys because this is the weirdest team in terms of backfield success. Any one of these guys could have like a ridiculous, like that Jonas Gray game just because.
Right. I do feel a little different though. I think Burkhead's kind of safe. Oddly
Of
enough,
those guys, yeah, I would say that Burkhead would be the guy I would be most comfortable in having.
right? Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. I have no problem with that.
I don't think any of them are safe in the entire player pool. I think Burkhead is the most safe of Patriots running backs.
Yeah, I guess the question is, at that price, what do you need from Burkhead? I I think in cash he's actually a decent play.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like I think Burkhead probably does have limited upside, but at the same time, I think he has a pretty high floor. I mean, last season you had Dion Lewis, you had Burkhead, you had Gillisley, um, and you had James White, right? So they had four guys on the roster, all of whom at some point in the season got work. This year or this week, assuming that Sony Michel is out, you only have three that will likely get any work.
Yeah.
So that to me changes things a little bit because we know that James White is used in the passing game. What's he going to get? Like a carry or two a game, right? Like if that, we've seen games where he doesn't have any rushing attempts. I I think Burkhead probably gets at least 10 carries, maybe more without Dion Lewis and without Michelle. Because last year, Sonny Michelle, or I'm sorry, last year, Dion Lewis, if you look at his production, he was actually very consistent last year. Let me read you his
He was
rushing total.
phenomenal last year. He grades out
Yeah,
as basically one of the top 5 running backs in the league on Football
crazy,
Outsiders.
crazy, right? I mean, he had his elusiveness rating is like through the roof.
Yeah.
But starting in week 6, here were his total touches. 11, 14, 17, 14, 14, 16, 15, 10, 14, 29, 32. But he was consistently around 15, 7, 15, 16. And now he's gone. And Michelle probably won't play.
I'm looking at their numbers from last year. Dion Lewis 180 carries, Gillisley 104, Burkhead 64, James White 43. So we need to take those 180 from Lewis and reappropriate them somewhere. I would assume that the Patriots are at least going to have a similar run pass split.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Like I would expect them to have a similar game style at the very least. Is James
Yeah.
White being overlooked then?
Yes.
We'll say total carries plus targets. So Dion Lewis at 215, Gillisley 105, Burkhead 100 on the dot, James White 115. If I'm doing that math correctly, is James White being slept on here? 72 targets last year.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is, especially given that Dion Lewis and Burkhead are both capable pass catchers. Not used like White is, but Dion Lewis is gone. Um, you know, James White is like your ideal tournament play
Yeah. He had
because
James White more targets than Dion Lewis and Burkhead combined last year.
oh, no doubt. Yeah. Like the thing about White is that he will have games where he's just not in the game plan.
Yeah.
You know, which sucks, but then he'll have games where he's used really heavily. And because this passing attack is down weapons like no Edelman, Brandon Cooks is gone. You know, they cut a bunch of guys that we thought might be involved. It's not unrealistic to see James White line up as a receiver too. I've actually seen that could be the case. So James White could definitely see his role expand.
And doesn't he fit well against in this particular game against Houston? Big time edge rushers. Getting White out behind those guys on the side, whether it's Watt or Clowney or whoever.
You definitely think so. You would. I mean, you talk about like a safety blanket for Brady, even though they do a pretty good job of getting him leaving him untouched, that line. But yeah, I think so.
He could have
I think
10
it's
catches
very possible. I
as,
mean,
as
I
just
wouldn't say
dump
it's
offs.
probable. Right. And the thing about James White is he makes something of those catches. Like he's very good in space. This guy can break them off. We've seen him do it countless times. Uh, yeah, there's just the situation is very unsettled in New England when you look at the running or the wide receivers. So I think the Texans are a good team at stopping the run. At least they were last year. But he's not used as a typical running back, and I think that James White definitely has upside here. And you would also think that he's significantly lower owned than Rex Burkhead.
Absolutely.
Has to be.
Houston last year against running backs, they were 7th in DVOA.
Yeah, they were pretty good. They're
So,
pretty good.
That's solid. Anything
Yeah.
chew them up in particular? Or yeah, Hyde in Houston.
TMCB says Cordarrelle Patterson finally the breakout year. I almost typed that with a straight face. Cordarrelle Patterson looked good in the preseason, but he always leads you on, and then he's just terrible and never does anything. You remember that year where Cordarrelle Patterson in seasonal leagues was being drafted like top 5 rounds?
Yeah, thanks, Matthew Berry.
Yeah, pure garbage.
Yeah, that's the Matthew Berry special right there.
Was it Berry that year?
I think so.
You're probably right.
I think it could have just been another faceless fantasy pundit. We all look alike.
The running back situation is really interesting in week 1, to say the least. Not just for New England, but across the board. It's deep.
I can't believe we've been going for an hour already.
Oh, I could go for 8 more hours talking football, man. It's just so easy.
All right, let's close this out. You said you're going to be MMEing for Sunday. You are also not touching tonight as well as me. We're not.
No, I'll play.
Not my scene.
I think I'll put like, what is it? The showdown. How much is it? Is it
for the Millie?
Yeah, I'm just really. I know it's $10. Well, that's hard to ignore. I'll probably throw.
Yeah.
I'll put 20, 30 lineups into it and call it a day. But that's
131,341 people in it already. Lineups already. So that'll be a lot higher than that in 5 hours, 6 hours.
I think you're going to see significant overlay though. Looking at this now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see any situation where there's not.
You have 160,000.
Yeah.
Spot still open.
Yeah.
But you know,
if the overlay is gigantic at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, I'm gonna throw bullets in it because I know math is really the only answer. Right. I have no interest in it, but
no. Yeah. Like you can't convince me that this showdown is whoever wins this is like the most skilled, right? I mean,
no.
You have kickers, you have DSTs. Like seriously, you could see Jake Elliott kick like 5 field goals and someone put him in the captain spot. You know, it's just it's so absurd. Shelton Gibson is $200 and he's actually going to get snaps here. He's also a nasty kick returner. So I don't know. Are we getting passes for return touchdowns here, or points for return touchdowns?
I don't think so. Yes, we are.
You do, right? Yep. Yeah. Okay. So Gibson's going to be returning kicks too. He's $200. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy, and he's actually going to be used in the passing game because they have no Alshon Jeffrey. They have no Mac Hollins. I mean,
what do you think? What do you think Carson Wentz's ownership is in this? Because the answer isn't 0.
I think it might be 0. There's a big O next to his name. It prevents people from being the dummies that they are.
Yeah,
that's the problem. I used to love when they wouldn't put anything next to players' names. Like DraftKings used to be so bare bones that there'd be no news. They wouldn't have the baseball lineups up there. They wouldn't have the weather.
It's a
They wouldn't
tricky
have.
situation because you don't want to open yourself up to like someone being mad about that. Oh, this said he was out, like, or this didn't say he was out. Like, I would wish they didn't show any of it. That should be on you.
That's what I'm saying. It used to be a much bigger DYOR game.
Yeah,
Do your own research.
as it should.
Yeah, it should. Like I honestly, I don't have a problem with the O next to the whatever. Like that's fine. I get that, but they've definitely like there never used to be the check mark next to a player's name when he was in the lineup.
Right.
Ever. They literally remove them from the player pool now, unless you search them. Right? If they're out of the lineup.
Yeah.
They've done their best to make it dummy proof. It did not used to be that way.
Yeah, bring on the dummies. I'm on team dummies.
Oh, but anyway, I'll throw some bullets in there. But you know what? This is more so just to have a little bit of fun tonight. Yeah. It's not like expecting to win $1 million. Right. Like I'll go hard in week 1 because how can you not? I expect it to be a pretty fun slate where there's actually skill that goes into it, right? Like where you actually have to put time and effort into creating multiple lineups. But with this, if Sheldon Gibson scores 1 touchdown and has 1 20-yard pass, the slate is broken.
Yeah.
You know, crazy. You can I put I put Gibson into the lineup and you can play him, Julio, Matt Ryan, Nick Foles, Devontae Freeman, and Zach Ertz, and still have $2,100 remaining.
What a game. So nuts. What a game.
And that lineup is going to be out there. That lineup will be out there, and it won't win.
No.
It will not win. Like the lineup that will win will have a defense and a kicker or something ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a weird one for sure. Has to be.
What do you think Ryan and Foles' ownership will be? Because whenever you have the opportunity to play multiple quarterbacks, it's the highest scoring position. What do you think their ownership is going to be on this showdown slate?
Oh my God.
50?
I would have said more.
Yeah. It's got to be up.
So you have to have one of them no matter what. Right?
Correct.
Can you do 2?
If you play Sheldon Gibson, you sure can. Easily.
So
I mean, you could you could. I'm sure you could do it without Gibson. Matter of fact.
Yeah, I mean, let's do.
Actually, you easily could.
Sanu.
Or play a kicker. Play a defense. Like
Hooper.
You don't want to play a defense.
Elliott, and I already have 10,000 left. Freeman. Yeah. Ryan, Foles, Sanu, Hooper, Elliott, Freeman. Yeah. I would have guessed that Ryan and Foles will both be over 50% then.
Yeah, they should be. By the way, I'm very high on Austin Hooper this year. I think he has a very good season.
Oh, talk to Chris.
Yeah, Chris the Hooper guy.
Yeah, Chris was eschewing the virtues of Hooper in our tight end preview.
Hey, you think about it. First season, he had 27 targets, 19 receptions, 271 yards. Next year, he tripled his targets, almost 65, 49 receptions, and then doubled his yards. He had 526 yards, 3 touchdowns in each. I think Hooper's going to have like 750, 800 yards, 5-6 touchdowns, maybe 7 touch. No joke. I think Hooper's going to have a good year this year. So don't sleep on him. But yeah, you're probably right. Foles and Ryan probably have ownership into the 60s.
Yeah. Got to get this win in the chat. I think this will be the last thing we touch on. I did both kickers and quarterbacks. Why the fuck not? I actually think that's probably a really bad play. If your quarterback is succeeding, you're not kicking field goals.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, there are always exceptions to the rules, right?
Yeah, like, but I think that one will unnaturally limit you. It's going to be hard for all of those guys to do well at the same time. Yeah,
matter of fact, both of these defenses are pretty good. We saw a 10-15 game. Remember 15-10 game in the playoffs last year. They played a season prior to that. and it was like a 20-14 game or something. I'm not saying that history always predicts the future, but I don't think this game is going to have that many points. I think it'll be a relatively low scoring affair where you probably where yes, you still want to target the quarterbacks just because they still quarterbacks obviously have the most opportunity to rack up points because the ball is in their hands every snap. But what's the probability that your quarterback, both of them and kickers, like you would need a 45-40 game to have any shot of that working out, I think.
Agreed. Same page.
Yeah. It is a 1-point spread though. And
Eagles just getting disrespected. Underdogs at home off a Super Bowl. I love it.
Crazy, isn't it?
I love it.
Absolutely crazy, man. They opened as 3-point favorites. They're a point dog now. Wow.
30 birds.
I'll tell you this, Josh. I'm really, really glad to be talking some pigskin again.
Same.
I'm looking forward to this season.
I've slowly been built up into like being excited for the NFL now, and I think it's more just that baseball has beaten me down to the point where I'm losing my mind and I'm ready for something new.
Well, especially when you're the director of content at a fantasy content site, that'll do it to you. When there's 6 straight months of baseball.
It will. I feel like I haven't thought about any other sport other than baseball in a while, and that's mostly because I have not. So I welcome this NFL season. I welcome the start of the NBA season. Hell, I welcome the start of the hockey season, and I don't care about hockey.
It's fun talking football, man.
It is.
Tell you what.
Just in case you didn't see it on the earlier video for baseball and you're tuning into just this process video, we are now starting a partnership with Fantasy Cruncher. If you sign up at awesemo.com with the promo code Strategy Show, no space, one big word, Strategy Show, you will get a free week subscription, all access. That's NFL, baseball, PGA, everything that we have for free for 1 week, including the add-on of Fantasy Cruncher. No later than Saturday will the functionality with Fantasy Cruncher be out there, but you get to test it all out. All of our ownership projections, all of our regular projections, Alex's rankings will all automatically be a part of Fantasy Cruncher. It is an add-on for the awesemo.com brand. We will be the only group of people that have this add-on. So if you're interested in that and you've been wanting to check out awesemo.com, Strategy Show, one word is the coupon code, and you can check us out for a week. That's all I got.
Well, I think this was a good show. I'm really got football back in the mode of football talk, and then it's just smooth sailing from there. And we're, by the way, gonna have last year, if you don't mind me pointing this out before we close. Last year we had two fellas talking football on FanVice. It was a pretty enjoyed show, and we're gonna do something similar to that on awesemo.com, which I'm very much looking forward to. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Sunday, you'll get 2 separate shows, similar to what we're doing in the live scene right now. So we will be with you for a couple hours all the way up until lock. We will drop out information on that. So check Twitter. Follow us at awesemo_com if you're not doing that already.
Word up, young MC.
Alrighty, everybody. Best of luck in everything that you're doing. Welcome back, NFL. We will talk to you later.